I still feel the weight of that afternoon pressing down on me, as if it happened only yesterday. I was standing in my cramped kitchen, the hum of the tiny fridge my only company, tearing open a packet of instant ramen as the first raindrops began to tap against the window. My freelance gig had just wrapped up, a 2-week whirlwind editing project that paid barely enough to cover rent. I was halfway through pouring boiling water over the noodles when my phone buzzed on the laminate countertop. I glanced at the screen. Mum. My chest fluttered. "Hey, Mum," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Hi, sweetie," she replied, and I heard the faint clink of her teacup. "I called because I got a letter from the bank today about James's new property loan. He's doing so well, darling. 3 rental units now. I just thought, are you sure you're on track? Maybe it's time to aim for something more permanent than gigs." I paused, ladle hovering over the bowl as her words washed over me. Something more permanent. My brother James, at 27, was already a landlord twice over. He'd graduated from Harvard, landed at Thompson & Co., and paraded his success in annual holiday cards. Meanwhile, I had my ramen ritual, a stack of overdue invoices, and a rented desk at a co-working space. "I'm fine," I said, voice tight. "I have a contract next week, and I'm looking into a longer-term project." "Oh, honey," she sighed, "a contract isn't a career. You know how proud I'd be if you bought a place of your own, like your brother, a roof over your head." My hands went cold. I'm working on it, Mum, I promise." We said goodbyes and I set the phone down, staring at my reflection in the window pane. My apartment was a disaster zone, empty pizza boxes, a single threadbare throw pillow, unpacked moving boxes from 6 months ago. I plucked a strand of hair from my face and exhaled, the steam from the ramen fogging the glass. I remembered every time she'd compared me to him. "Why can't you be more like James?" "Your brother has a plan. At least he's smart with his money." I slammed the spoon down and dumped the stew into the sink. Enough. It was time I stopped auditioning for a life that vanished every month. It was time to stake my own claim. That evening, I dug out my laptop and searched for properties under my budget. My bank account hovered just above eviction level, but I knew the market had hidden gems if you searched hard enough. When the clock struck midnight, I discovered it. A 3-unit building half a block from the subway, listed for $75,000 below assessed value. The pictures looked like a war zone: peeling paint, sagging porch, windows boarded up, but my pulse quickened. I clicked through the photos: a creaky staircase, a basement with exposed brick, a roof that probably leaked. My freelance account. Balance blinked at me from the corner of the screen. "You can do this," I whispered. Fingers trembling, I filled out the contact form and added a note. "Serious buyer. Can close within 2 weeks." I hit send and stared at the confirmation, page as if it were a winning lottery ticket. Sleep eluded me. My dreams were filled with eviction notices and foreclosure signs, but every time I woke, I saw that property listing in my mind. My chance. I spent the next morning tallying my savings, sketching renovation plans on scrap paper, emailing the SI bank to pre-qualify for a mortgage. By Friday, I had an offer letter typed, signed and scanned. I clicked submit and felt a jolt of adrenaline. My heart thrummed. If this went through, I'd own a building. On Monday, the agent called. My shoulders sagged when I heard her voice. "Congratulations," she said. "They've accepted your offer." I sank into my desk chair, closing my eyes against the flood of emotion. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you so much." Closing day arrived on a rain-soaked Thursday. I sat in the tiny attorney's office, the overhead fluorescent light flickering, signing pages that felt like a lifeline. Every signature scratched into the paper felt like ripping permission slips away from my past failures. When I pushed the final document across the table, the attorney looked at me and said, "Welcome to property ownership." I exhaled, stunned. The words landed like a final exam I'd just aced. I moved into the top floor unit while renovations began on the lower 2. I spent every spare dollar on materials: floorboards, paint, plumbing fixtures. I lived on oatmeal and black coffee. My fingers got raw from scraping paint. My back ached from lifting sheetrock. But every night, I collapsed onto my second-hand couch and stared at my hands, coated in primer, and felt an unfamiliar pride. Weeks later, I posted the lower units online. Within hours, tenants flooded my inbox. A grad student looking for quiet, a young couple seeking a fresh start, a teacher needing proximity to the school. I arranged showings in the mornings before dawn, walking prospective tenants through the half-finished spaces, pointing out the soon-to-be oak floors, the custom tile I'd picked out, the new windows to let in the sunlight. The last showing was with a young woman named Marisol, an adjunct professor who fell in love with the high ceilings and the view of the fire escape. She filled out the application on the spot. I met her in the lobby, keys in hand, as she stepped inside her new home. Her face lit up, and I realised I was witnessing dreams take shape because of my effort. That afternoon, I settled into the newly painted living room with a cup of tea and opened an email from my mortgage broker. My credit score was solid, my payments automatic, and then I saw a line that stopped my breath. Account update. Records now list you as landlord for 123 Elm Street, tenant, James Thompson. I blinked, rereading the sentence. Landlord, tenant, James Thompson. My brother, the high-flying partner at Thompson & Co., was paying rent to me. My fingers shook as I clicked back to the statement. There it was in black and white. Landlord? My name. Tenant. James Thompson. Everything inside me surged. Shock, triumph, disbelief. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me, and closed my eyes. The apartment felt different now, as though the walls themselves whispered victory. After all the comparisons, all the dismissals, I had become the one holding the keys. I called Mom first. It rang twice before she picked up. Hi, sweetie, she said. Mum, I said, voice thick. You won't believe this. The bank, they addressed me as the landlord on my mortgage statement. And guess who the tenant is? She was silent. I heard her catch her breath. You bought a building? She whispered. No, Mom, I own a building. I'm the landlord. And the tenant is James. A long pause, then a laugh that trembled on the line. Oh, honey, I'm so proud. Tears stung my eyes. I'm so proud of you. I closed my phone and let the tears fall. All those years of feeling mediocre melted away in that moment. I'd carved out a life on my own terms. A week later, I drove down the block to the duplex and found James leaning against his borrowed sedan, scrolling on his phone. He looked up, eyes widening when he saw me. The fresh coat of teal on the front door gleamed in the afternoon sun. Hey, I said, walking up the steps. He straightened, expression guarded. This is quite the place. I handed him a paintbrush. It was meant for touch-ups. Your turn, I teased. He took it, lingering on the bristles. So, landlord? I nodded. Landlord. He set the brush down on the porch railing, exhaled. I never thought I'd be renting from you. You never thought I could do this, I shot back gently. But here we are. He met my gaze, his Harvard degree and corporate title stripped away by that simple transaction. After a beat, he smiled, a real smile tinged with surprise and respect. Coffee later? On me. I laughed, the sound light and free. Sure. That evening we sat at the little folding table in my living room, lamps casting warm pools of light over paint. Cans and blueprints. He talked about his day, the pitch that fell through, the strategy meeting with partners. I listened, sipping tea, feeling an ease I'd never known in his presence before. Finally he looked at me and said, You did good. I tilted my mug toward him. To doing good. The next morning, I checked my inbox. Rent checks cleared, maintenance requests minimal, a new tenant review glowing. I took a moment on the front stoop to look up at the building I'd almost missed because of paint chips and broken windows. Every rung of the fire escape, every repaired floorboard, Every tenant's happy handshake was proof of my work. Mom called. Again later that day. I was talking to a friend, she said. She said she might need a place near the subway. I gave her your number. I grinned. I'm looking forward to it. I hung up and stepped inside, the echo of my footsteps on the refurbished hardwood a gentle reminder. I had built this. Not through privilege or pedigree, but through grit and conviction, through believing that the underdog could become the one in charge. That night, I scribbled in my journal, renovation notes, tenant contacts, future plans for the backyard. On the last page I wrote, I am not behind. I am exactly where I belong. I closed the journal, turned off the lamp, and lay in bed listening to the rain patter against the window. I pictured the duplex rising each morning under my watchful care, a home for people who needed one, a testament to my journey from underdog to landlord. And as sleep finally claimed me, I smiled, knowing that no comparison could ever diminish my worth again.